Hey guys, CryptoDad here again. Thanks for joining me on my Tuesday morning live stream. Uh, Gonna talk about what Bitcoin is. Thought we'd get back to basics once again. I'm gonna take questions, so any of you that have questions, please throw them up in the comments. I'll do my best to get to them. So let's get started. All right, let's see where we are here. There we go. Wow. All right. All right. So let's pull up mastering Bitcoin. I think I misspelled it, but it should come up just in case. So we need to talk a little bit about. First of all, let me direct you to this book, Mastering Bitcoin. You can learn a lot about Bitcoin. I encourage you to buy the book itself. You can get the book in soft cover. I don't know where mine is. Oh, here it is. It's a great book. You can see I've got some bookmarks in there. I've been going through it. It's good to have as a reference, but it's also free. The first edition is also free on GitHub. It's an open source book. So you can follow this link and check it out on GitHub. And just if you want to refer to anything here, like the intro, and we'll talk a little bit about what Bitcoin is today. A lot of people have trouble wrapping their head around it, and of course I did too, for several weeks, months when I first started getting into Bitcoin. But at its core, Bitcoin is a decentralized cryptocurrency. And when we say cryptocurrency, we're referring to a technology of cryptography. We think about cryptography in a lot of ways, with spies and stuff like that. But we generally associate it with encryption. And encryption is where you disguise a message or scramble a message so that it can't be read by a third party, right? If you want to send a secret message to someone, you would scramble it, send it to the desired recipient, and they would, on their end, unscramble it, right? Now, a lot of people think about that in a sense where the old style is, like the Caesar cipher is the easiest encryption to wrap your head around. It's where you scramble the signal by just shifting the alphabet, maybe one or two characters down, so that A becomes B and B becomes C, and then you write it out. And the person on the other end, all they need to know is that they have to shift the alphabet, right? So it's pretty easy for them to decrypt. If it's a little more complicated than that, then it might be that there's a particular key that is used to encrypt and decrypt. And in that case, you have to send the key to your recipient, right? The recipient has to have the key so that he can decrypt. Well, you run into this problem with, we call that synchronous cryptography, where each person on both ends has the same key. You get into a problem there. The problem is getting the key to the other party, right? Because you don't want to keep using the same key over and over again. So you're probably going to need to start using new keys as time goes on. Well, you got to get the key to the other person somehow, secretly. And getting the key to the other person, that task ends up being so difficult at times that you might as well just send the message. If you're gonna have so much trouble getting the key to the other person so that they can decrypt your message, you might as well just give them the message. So a new way of encryption formed in the 70s, and it was called asynchronous encryption or public-private key encryption. And that is where cryptographically you're using large numbers, math, to send a message to someone, and you have a public key and a private key, and they have a public key and a private key. Now, your public key can be sent easily through email. It doesn't matter if someone sees your public key. They can't decrypt messages by seeing your public key. But if you send a message to someone and using their public key to encrypt, then only they can decrypt it, right? And vice versa. If someone encrypts a message to you using your public key, only you, having the private key, are able to decrypt. Now, Bitcoin uses that technology, but it doesn't really use it to scramble the messages that are sent back and forth. The Bitcoin blockchain is transparent. Anyone can see what's on the Bitcoin blockchain. A particular use case for public-private key encryption is used with Bitcoin to sign transactions, right? So I can sign a transaction using my private key, and only I can sign the transaction. Now, if you wanted to send Bitcoin to me, I could send you my, not really my public key, but a receiving address. The address is derived from my public key. Now, no one can find my private key by having a receiving address or by having my public key, really. The math doesn't work backwards, right? But I can derive my public key using my private key, and then from my public key get sending addresses. So, and this just validates transactions. It doesn't scramble. It just validates. Now, I know I'm getting kind of off topic here, but when we talk about what Bitcoin is, the Bitcoin blockchain is a public ledger of all of the transactions that have occurred on the Bitcoin blockchain. And you could download a node, which is basically just a copy of the blockchain. And that's a huge file that contains all of the Bitcoin transactions that have occurred since the beginning, with all of the balances of all the wallets and all of the transactions in and out between the wallets. And so when you've got a wallet on your computer, sometimes the wallet downloads the entire blockchain. Certain wallets like the Bitcoin Core wallet does that. There's a wallet, it can't come to my mind right now. I can't remember the name of it, but several Bitcoin wallets download the entire blockchain to your computer. A lot of modern Bitcoin wallets don't do that because it's so resource intensive, and the blockchain keeps getting bigger and bigger as time goes by. So like Electrum and Ledger don't actually download the entire blockchain to your computer. You simply query it from using the internet. There are servers out there that have what we call a full node of the Bitcoin blockchain, and you can query it from your wallet and get your current balance and your list of transactions and all that stuff. And so when you own Bitcoin, you basically just own an address on that blockchain somewhere that has a balance, has a history, but the Bitcoin isn't actually on your computer. The only thing really on your computer is the wallet and the private key, and that private key unlocks the Bitcoin that you lay claim to on the blockchain by virtue of having that private key. It's sort of like a safety deposit box in a way. Let's say you've got valuables in a safety deposit box. It's there in your bank account, but you don't actually have it. But you have the key, right? So the only way that you can access the valuables in your safety deposit box is by virtue of going to the bank and presenting your key. No one else can do that. Only you can do that. So it's kind of similar in a way. But it's much easier with Bitcoin to send and receive or spend whatever value you possess because it's digital and it's on the internet. You've got instant access, right? You don't have to run down to the bank to unlock your Bitcoin, right? You can unlock it from your computer using your private key. You can also use a phone to do it as well. So anyway, I've been babbling. I haven't even greeted all my visitors today, so I'm going to pop out my chat. And Stephen Myers is here. M.A. Kna, Machna is here. Ty Cryptos is here. Adam78, once again, thanks for joining, Adam. X, Lord of Love, X, hi Rex. I recommend you to collaborate with Philippe from Crypto Media's TV channel. He is a Spanish-English crypto YouTuber and very educated person in the sector. He also has a talk at BitBlock Boom. Might check that out. Jim Musselwhite is here as well. And you guys haven't thrown out any questions. So I'll try not to get too technical. But let's try to give a concrete example of a Bitcoin wallet, right? So I'll go ahead and launch Ledger Live. Now, Ledger Live is software that runs on my computer. And using Ledger Live, I have access to my Bitcoin accounts or addresses, right? Ledger Live also supports other cryptocurrencies. All right, so this software will allow me to see, let's find an account here that's got some Bitcoin in it, right? Some of my accounts are empty at the moment, but this particular account has some Bitcoin in it, right? I can see how much Bitcoin I possess in this particular address. And like I said, the Bitcoin is not on my computer. And it's also not in my Ledger device, right? The Bitcoin is on the blockchain, right? There's multiple copies of this blockchain floating around out there on multiple devices on the internet. And anyone can see on that ledger this Bitcoin address and what's in it, right? Like I said, Bitcoin is not transparent, but they cannot move that Bitcoin. Only I can. Right? That's the beauty of the cryptography that's involved, right? The public-private key cryptography that we're using here is a signing mechanism, right? I can sign a transaction using my private key. And by virtue of that, by virtue of me holding the private keys on this device, I can move the Bitcoin. I can spend the Bitcoin, right? I can send it somewhere to someone else as payment, or I could send it to an exchange and sell it for US dollars, or trade it for some other cryptocurrency. But as long as it's in my wallet, I'm the only one that can do that, right? Because I have the private key, right? And that's the beauty of the Bitcoin, right? Now, I noticed, though, when I launched Ledger Live, that it told me that there was an update available. So I'm going to, I'm a little worried about this, but I'm going to go ahead and try to run this update. You know what? I won't. I'll do it later because it could flake out, and I don't want to lose access to my Ledger Live while we're talking, all right? But normally you would want to run your updates when it's not crucial that you access your Bitcoin, right? You want to be a low stress environment when you run updates on your software, right? Now there's other kinds of my bill is ready. There's other kinds of Bitcoin wallets, right? Let's look at a different kind of Bitcoin wallet. Ledger Live is a Bitcoin wallet that interacts with my hardware device, right? Where the private keys are stored on my device. Now this other wallet that I'm showing you here, the Electrum Bitcoin wallet, is a desktop-based Bitcoin wallet where we can send and receive Bitcoin, we can check our balance, we can do all that stuff. And in this particular type of wallet, the private key is stored on my computer, right? Now it's encrypted and all that stuff, but it is a little more vulnerable than the Ledger device, right? This is what we would call a cold wallet. Now, the Electrum wallet is a little more, what we might call it a hot wallet, but we do hold the private keys in our own device, right? Now, there are other types of wallets, like a hot wallet, like on an exchange, where you don't even control the private key. It's sort of like a bank, right? I have money in the bank, but it's not really my money. It belongs to the bank. And I can access it by virtue of my ID or my app or my username and password or whatever, but it's really not my money until I actually take it out of the ATM and hold it in my hand. Then it's my money, right? Now I can, spend money in my bank account with my credit cards and my ATM cards. So most people think of banks as just like they're holding my money for me, but it's my money. I can use it whenever I want. And that paradigm works pretty well for most of the people, but you might want to talk to some people in Lebanon who have money in the bank, but they're limited to only $200 a week that they can withdraw from the ATM. Their banks have imposed restrictions on them, right? So we never know when the bank might decide, you know what, we're in a little bit of a crisis here. We don't want to, shake the foundations of the economic system by, having everybody run to the bank and get money out. So we're going to impose strict limits on your withdrawals, right? Wouldn't that be a shocker? But it's not out of the realm of possibility, right? So, but with Bitcoin, they can't do that. Bitcoin is decentralized. Nobody owns it. And as long as you have access to the internet and the blockchain via your internet access, you can send and receive Bitcoin, right? No one can stop you. So that's another advantage of Bitcoin over the current system with US dollars and banks and other currencies, right? So I got a little off there, right? And when I want to send Bitcoin to someone to make a purchase, there is no third party involved, right? Now the banks are skimming Bitcoin. The banks are skimming money by deposit minimums, bank charges, ATM charges, service charges, checking account charges, all that stuff. And now it looks like the world might be getting to a point where banks will be have negative interest rates, where they're just going to be charging you to hold your money, right? That's a new thing, right? But it doesn't happen that way with Bitcoin. Now, because Bitcoin is decentralized and it requires, a community to make it work, there are network charges, but they're very small compared to the merchant charges that you get using major credit cards, things like that. People that maintain the Bitcoin network are called miners. They run very advanced hardware that does high-end mathematical calculations that generate new Bitcoin and maintain and process transactions, right? So by virtue of doing that, by lending their computing power to the Bitcoin blockchain, they're entitled to small fees that, for them accumulate over time. So when you send and receive Bitcoin on the Bitcoin blockchain, there are small network fees, but they're not being charged by any centralized party. All right, so let's see. Oh, LTZ Perosi is here. That's cool. He's usually at the live stream Friday night. He has a question. If I go from the old version of Ledger Live and decide to do the Ledger Live 2.0 update, and I have 3 different Ledger Nano, how complicated will it be to see all Ledger accounts? It shouldn't be complicated at all. The idea when you do the upgrade on Ledger Live is that everything stays in place. You're not going to need to re-add your accounts, right? Your accounts will stay in place. Nothing is going to change. When I ran my update, nothing changed. I just updated the version. The interface has changed. There's a lot of improvements, but all of the apps that I had on my device, of course, those never are affected by Ledger Live updates, right? They're affected by firmware updates to the device. But when you just basically upgrade the Ledger Live software, nothing changes that you had set up before. So LTC is asking me about multiple ledgers. So in my case, I have more than one ledger with represented in my account list, right? So the bulk of my accounts are associated with this Ledger Nano X. So I use this Ledger Nano X to set up the accounts. The private keys for those accounts are on this device. Now I also have some other accounts here, like I'm not sure if this one, I think, yeah. So the Ethereum Nano S account is associated with a different device, all right? I have a Ledger Nano S, the older model, and I do have some accounts that are still on here that I might want to access from time to time. And I can put those accounts in the same copy of Ledger Live that I'm using for this other device, right? So you can manage multiple devices in Ledger Live simply by connecting the device and adding accounts, right? So whenever we go to add account, it wants to scan the device that I have connected, right? So if I wanted to add another Bitcoin account, I could do that, and I could create another empty Bitcoin account that is tied to this device, right? And then I could do the same thing again. I could add account, but this time connect the older device, or the other device. You can have multiple Ledger Nano X's as well, different colors. The only thing is, in that situation, is it's up to you. It's your responsibility to keep track of which device is associated with which account. Now, Ledger will sort of do it for you under the hood by telling you when you've got the wrong device attached, right? Not particularly helpful, but kind of a fail-safe, right? So if I were to try to move Bitcoin out of, say, this account, if there were some Bitcoin in this account, and I tried to do a send, right? It would, well, I don't have an address at the moment. Let's just, for the sake of argument, I'm just gonna grab this guy. I'll do a receive and get that address real quick. All right, that's just a quick address. And let's say that I wanted to send some Bitcoin from this account. Well, first of all, there's nothing in there. But second of all, I'm going to get the address in there. Ah, pooies. Yeah, it's not going to work. I can't get to the point where it says oops, right? It's going to say, oops, you've got the wrong device attached. It'll say, this device does not contain the private keys for this account because I set that account up with this other device, right? So it will, it'll tell you, you've got the wrong device attached. But the better way is your own way. Your responsibility is to name the account meaningfully so that you remember which device it's associated with. So in my case, all of the just basic accounts, like I put Ledger X on this account, but this account, and this account, they don't say which ledger it is. I just know that it's Ledger X because that's my go-to main device, all right? But the other accounts that are associated with different devices, I write the name, right? When you first set up the account, you can edit the name, right? It's up to you to name the account. You can name it whatever you want. So name it meaningfully so you can keep track of which account is associated with which device. But when we run the update, and let's throw all caution to the wind and just run it. I think it's a minor update. I'll probably crash my computer doing this, but we'll see. This is probably, a bug fix, right? Well, I got lucky. It worked. All right. But this is rather a minor update, but the previous one that went from 1 point whatever up to 2.0 was the same, right? You could do it in place. Now, I have to point out that, I did a video on this uh, about a week ago, less than a week ago, and it worked just fine for me. But a lot of people that commented on that video were having issues. Syncing issues, error message issues, probably associated with whatever version of the OS they were running or whatever state their computer happened to be in. I don't know, but it worked fine for me. But I always run the latest version of the operating system. I run the latest version of Windows 10. Some people may be running Windows 10, but it's got, it's a few updates back, or maybe they're still running Windows 8, or God forbid, Windows 7. Maybe Ledger didn't fully test, or, some bugs always happen when you release new software. So this particular update that we just ran has some bug fixes. So, so there were some Linux issues fixed, some Tezos issues fixed with export operations, minor wording refinement in the manager, fixed a visual glitch in start accounts, better performance in the manager. Didn't really address some of the issues that I've seen with people getting oops messages or not being able to launch Ledger Live at all. My guess is that it's probably something on their computer. I hate, nobody wants to blame their computer. Their computer can do no wrong. Just like no one wants to blame their dog when, the dogs get into a fight at the park or whatever. Your dog started it, whatever. Or kids, it's not my kid's fault. It's your kid's fault, right? So, whenever somebody downloads software and runs it, they're always like, hey, this software is screwed up. It won't run right. And we're like, well, check your own computer and see, if you're up to date, if your OS has degraded, performance-wise, function-wise, just from not being kept up to date. The OS performance degrades over time, right? So if you've got a copy of Windows that you've been running for like 5 years, even if you're keeping it up to date, there's going to be some performance problems that will accumulate over time, just like on the hard disk itself. Fragmentation, corruption, that kind of stuff that sort of live under the surface until they get tested, or brought out into the light by some new update or upgrade or whatever. So, I don't want to blame people that downloaded Ledger Live and it didn't run right for them, right? It's not my place. But if it were me, I'd always kind of look to my own machine before I blame software. I always try to, right? But anyway, we got that update done, and it seemed to work okay. And then another issue with Ledger Live when they first release updates is there are sync issues with their server because, it's like anything. When some new software comes out, everybody rushes to download it. Ledger is a great company. They make great cryptocurrency devices. They have decent software for their interface, but they're not primarily a software company, right? They're primarily a wallet company that make hardware wallets for cryptocurrency. So they're not as robust as, say, Microsoft. Microsoft has thousands and thousands of servers all over the world. Whenever they push out updates, there's a lot of capacity there when people go to download Microsoft updates. But Microsoft is not without its update issues as well. So there's been a lot of bad blood with Microsoft Windows users over Microsoft's update process, Microsoft update bugs. So it's not just Ledger that has issues when they push out updates. But there are smaller company and they have less servers. So their servers tend to get overloaded when they push out updates. And that's always an issue with Ledger. When everybody's rushing to get the latest update, they get a little bit overloaded, and that contributes to issues that people are having. Usually the sync type issues, right? All right, so LTC is here. So I would say LTC, if you've got multiple accounts set up and you run the update, you shouldn't have any issues getting it like redone, right? It shouldn't change anything. Raptor said he's in trouble. Scott Lee is here. Hello. All right, so got some spammers today. Isn't that great? It's been a while. Yeah, I know that things are good when I get like these spammers and oh yeah, begging for money, right? I love that one. You know, here's my Bitcoin address. Send me Bitcoin. That's a good one. Okay, so let's look at some serious questions here. Scott, it's good to have you here. Glad you're here. Sarvoli, just activated my Sarv. Let me see if I can pronounce this right. Svarthold 1 underscore. Just got his Nano up and running with my help. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do my best to try to, for every operation out there that you can do with a ledger, I try to do a video every time something comes up. I mean, and it helps me too. It's kind of like, what am I going to do a video on today? You know, I'm like, okay, well, how about, setting up the ledger, how about recovering the ledger? It gives me like food subject matter for things to do on my YouTube channel. So whenever like a new update comes out, that's like, hey, cool, I can do a video on running the update. Or how about, doing a video on sending and receiving crypto using the Ledger, Oh, how about using the Ledger Live phone-based app for doing that, So every time they get some new thing, some new software, some new operation, some new device, I'll usually try to do a video. And over the last 3 years that I've been running this YouTube channel, I've accumulated quite a little library of Ledger videos. So if you're looking for help, my suggestion is to say CryptoDad and then type what you're after, right? So as you can see, it kind of auto-completed there. Ledger, let's do Ledger setup. See what that gets us. All right, so there we go. Google just served it up for us. How to set up Ledger Nano S, how to set up Ledger Nano X, using Ledger Live to set up your new ledger. So there's a lot of videos out there for you. Let's do Ledger 2.0, see what that gives us. There it is, how to use the all new features in Ledger Live 2.0. My video. So it's pretty easy to find because I got a lot, right? I got like 300 plus videos. So if you're having trouble with any particular issue, then just do a Google search, put my name first, and then whatever you're after. And you'll probably get a helpful video. And my standalone videos are step-by-step with walkthroughs, right? Just like, a gamer would want, if he's trying to figure out how to get the golden scepter in the Temple of Iris or whatever. You go on the internet and you search for somebody that does a walkthrough for you, gives you step-by-step instructions on how to get through a particular puzzle or maze or whatever. So that's what I do with my YouTube channel. Bob Grattan, thank you. I'm glad you're here. Bob. Okay. Health review hidden. Let's see. Oh yeah, I see. Okay. Stefan. Okay. Done the new update and it still hasn't fixed the issue of adding ERC20 tokens. The crypto balance shows, but not the fiat balance. You know what? Someone sent me a comment earlier today about that. So let's take a look at where we're at with that. They didn't mention that as a fix, but so basically the issue is, okay, I've got some Ethereum. I want to see the US dollar value. I can see that with Ethereum. But I'm seeing mine. So I can see that this bat here is worth 232. I can see the chain link. Now the kick token is now 0. I should point that out because I think in my live stream, or maybe in one of my recent videos, I was lamenting the fact that kick token are still showing up. But at least they're not assigned a value, right? They're a worthless cryptocurrency. I wish that I could, just remove it completely. But Ledger doesn't have that functionality, right? So like, for instance, this legacy, right? There's a whole bunch of, kind of worthless ERC20 tokens that are still sort of in my old ledger. And my assumption, hope springs eternal in the breast of man. My hope is that someday some of these like airdrops might be worth something. Look at this one, Aurora. It was just given to me, but it's worth $1 now. My God, who knows? Maybe when one of these might moon out at some point. But at the moment they're kind of Dentacoin. I've never even heard of these, but they accumulate in an Ethereum address, and so I don't have the heart to just sort of delete the Ethereum account completely, because you never know, that kind of stuff. I mean, these worthless ones are adding like $2 to my total portfolio. So anyway, but some of them are so worthless that they're not showing any value at all. Right? But I do see dollar value on the holdings that matter, right? BAT definitely has a value, and I can see its value. So I'm not sure what you could do if you're not seeing the US dollar value of your ERC20 tokens. Some good old-fashioned troubleshooting could never hurt. A nice clean reboot of your computer, a nice clean reboot of your modem. Those things are the first thing to try, right? And if you're still not seeing this and you just upgraded, maybe wait a couple of days and for Ledger servers to sort of get synced. Or now there's another thing you can try, quick and easy fix, right? Over here where it says up at the top, it says synchronize. Click on that and let it do its synchronize again, right? It may, for whatever reason, didn't synchronize when you first launched Ledger Live. So check that one first. That's quick and easy. But there's some other ones too. Let's go over here to settings. Let's check it out. Let's go over here to help. In the help section, there are several little tools that you can use to address some sync issues and some tech issues, right? So Clear Cache is your first one. A very simple, quick, easy way to sort of clear the internal cache in Ledger Live that sort of goes and gets value, right? And it doesn't affect anything really. It doesn't remove accounts. It doesn't reset accounts. It doesn't do anything like that. It just sort of clears the cache. And that can help, right? Now, down here where it says reset Ledger Live, that could be useful if you're in a situation where things are really screwed up. But you don't really want to do this one unless you're prepared to re-add your accounts, right? When you do a reset of Ledger Live, it removes all the accounts, right? It doesn't erase any of the private keys on the device, all right? It simply removes the accounts. And then you go back to your accounts page and there's nothing there, right? And then you would have to slowly just add accounts one by one to get them back, right? It would scan your device and find your accounts again. And then if you had multiple devices, you would have to connect your other device and do add accounts there to re-add the accounts associated with your other device. But it's not it's not like reinstalling Windows or anything. It's not that difficult to re-add accounts. It'd probably take you the whole of 15, 20 minutes. But one thing you should be aware of is that whatever like names you had for the accounts will be wiped, right? You'll have to re-add the account and kind of rename them as well. All right. Also, so like this Bitcoin donation address, right? I would definitely, want to sort of note what account that is, right? Because I could add it again and not really not know what it is. Like the Tezos, I only have one account on Tezos, so I would just, open Tezos on my device and choose Add Account and just re-add it, right? I've done it many times. Nothing gets lost, right? So, for most people, your account situation is fairly straightforward. You may have one or two Bitcoin accounts and an Ethereum and a Litecoin, right? You got 3 accounts, so it's no big deal to add your accounts again, right? So let's go back over here. So reset ledger live is pretty extreme, right? But it could be a fix. Now, repair your ledger device could work on the device itself. It probably wouldn't fix that Ethereum syncing issue where Ethereum accounts are not showing your balance. That's a ledger live issue, right? That really has nothing to do with the device itself. But firmware upgrades that go wrong, telling you wrong device or passphrase, could be that somehow the device has gotten screwed up or whatever. So repair ledger does some internal stuff on the ledger device itself that might be helpful, and is short of doing a full restore, right? You don't want to have to do a full restore if you don't have to. But a full restore is when you reset the device and do a restore from your 24-word recovery phrase. That's pretty extreme, right? We don't want to do that. So if you're having trouble with Ledger Live, check out some of these things in the help, but be careful. The reset Ledger Live is a little extreme and might freak you out if you see your accounts are gone, but they're still there. It's a red button, right? Don't watch out for those red buttons. I can't pull my Bitcoin Cash off my Ledger Nano no matter what address pops up. Invalid Bitcoin Cash address. Okay. So if you're trying to move Bitcoin Cash, and at the moment I don't have Bitcoin Cash, try this. Bitcoin Cash address convert, right? So your cryptocurrency exchange, right? I guess I'm assuming that you're trying to send your Bitcoin Cash to an exchange so that you can cash out, right? When you say pull off, you're trying to move that Bitcoin Cash from your wallet address to an address on an exchange. The exchange is giving you a Bitcoin Cash address, right? Whatever that Bitcoin Cash address may be, right? And then when you go back into Ledger Live and you do a send, like we did a send earlier, and you try and put that Bitcoin Cash address in, Ledger is telling you that it's invalid, right? That's my assumption, right? So it may be that you have an old legacy address, or you've got an address that's ahead of the exchange, right? So try these. They give you some more information here. So they've updated the address format now. So it may either it's ahead of you or it's behind you, right? The format, right? So you want to do a little research on the address format. So I believe that your Bitcoin Cash issue is an address issue, but you have to be really careful because some of these sites, could be malicious, right? They could be tricking you into sending Bitcoin Cash to their address. So you want to be very careful and do your research and try to go to the source. I think Bitcoin.com is probably a very good resource. Now, where are we here? Yeah, Bitcoin.com is the real authority on Bitcoin Cash, right? Because they claim to be the real Bitcoin, right? So this is a good source maybe to I don't know. I don't see like a help section, but there might be somewhere on here where you could find out more about these new address formats, right? Latest news, popular videos. Okay. Maybe down here at the bottom where they talk a little bit about yeah. Anyway, like I said, there are address converters out there. Just be careful. Maybe, and always, 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 if you're going to send some Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin from one place to another, always start with a small test amount to make sure it's working before you send the mother load, right? You get a lot of people, they get all hung up, they're stressed out, and don't send Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash when you're in a hurry, right? Or when you're stressed, right? Always try to be calm, cool, collected, and mindful when you're moving your Bitcoin around. It's valuable, right? So if you say you use this address converter, right? And you've generated an address that will work in your ledger, right? When you go to send and you put in that address and it's fine, right? And you move on to the next screen, right? Do I still have a Bitcoin address in my, yeah. When you get to this screen, don't send it all, right? Just send a little bit and see if it works, right? And then, monitor both ends of the transaction and wait until it's cleared on both ends, right? Your wallet says it's sent, your exchange says it's received, and you're good to go, right? Then you can send more, right? Or the rest, or whatever you want to do, right? That's the way to do it. Don't get stressed out and like just willy-nilly find some address converter and send 13 Bitcoin Cash and then figure out, oh, I used it's not the right format, or I used the wrong address, or it was malicious, or whatever. Always test your transactions with small amounts before you send huge amounts across the blockchain. All right, it's just common sense. But a lot of people fall into that trap, right? They think they got it right and they send a huge amount and then it's gone forever, right? Because they sent Bitcoin Cash to a Bitcoin address, or they sent Bitcoin to a Bitcoin Cash address. That stuff will, you'll lose your crypto if you do that. Okay, so we're still, LTC said it's better to uninstall the old Ledger Live and then install the new Ledger 2.0. I'm never sure what I click since I have 3 nanos when they ask you to choose between 4 options. Huh. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I think maybe what you're referring to is like a clean install, and when you do a clean install, your accounts would be gone, and in the beginning, it's going to ask you. I don't know if I can get to that screen or not. I don't think I can without wiping mine. But when you first start out in Ledger Live, it asks you, do you wish to restore a device? Do you wish to initialize a device? Or I already have an initialized device, and that's the one you would choose. I already have an initialized device, and then it'll just take you to the home screen and give you the opportunity to add accounts to the already initialized device. Right? You don't want to wipe your device with doing a restore or an initialization. Right? you should say, I think that's the choice you're asking about, LTC, right? And then you would, after that, just take each device one by one, connect it, and start adding accounts until you retrieve all of the accounts that you have. Let's say you've like got amnesia and you can't remember any of the accounts that you have on any of the devices. The devices will remember, right? So the general assumption is, okay, I know I've got like 5 different cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Tezos, whatever, right, in Ledger Live. So just connect each device, do add account, and add each one of those cryptocurrencies until you discover balances, right? The idea is that you've got balances on these devices somewhere. And then after you've added those accounts and named them appropriately, connect the other device. Disconnect this one and connect your other device and start adding accounts on that end. And then, check each cryptocurrency. Check for Bitcoin, check for Litecoin, check for Ethereum until you discover balances, right? It's not that difficult, all right? So let's say, let's just go ahead and let's do add account. Now, mine's going to be a little confusing, I know. Let's do Bitcoin Cash for the heck of it, right? Let's hit Bitcoin Cash. It wants me to connect and unlock my device, so I'm going to have to unlock. Now, I know I don't have any Bitcoin Cash, but I do know that at some point I did, and I probably have like an empty account that's got some old transactions in it. So why not, right? All right, so now I've unlocked the device, and now I need to go into the Bitcoin Cash app, right? So I'll do that. Actually, I don't think I have it. All right, so I'm going to go over here to Manager. All right, and let's see here what we've got over here, just so you can see what the heck I'm doing. Right, it wants me to allow Ledger Manager. I'll say allow Ledger Manager. Right. Now we want to add Bitcoin Cash, right? It says that it's supported in Ledger Live, and I have not installed it yet. I'll go ahead and install it. And you should see on my device processing, and then the Bitcoin Cash. All right, now that's cool. App successfully installed. You can now add your Bitcoin Cash account. So I'm going to click this little helpful button. It's kind of walking me through this, right? Now it wants me to add some Bitcoin Cash accounts, right? So I'll do that. So the Ledger Live is now scanning my device for Bitcoin Cash accounts. So, but I need to be in the Bitcoin Cash app. So I'm going to go backwards here because I'm figuring it's right there at the end, right? Then I'll enter the Bitcoin Cash app by hitting both buttons. And now it's going to scan my device for Bitcoin Cash wallets or private keys, right? So let's see what it finds. Most likely, it'll just find an empty, it'll create an empty wallet for me, right? All right, see, look, there's an existing one, right? It found an existing Bitcoin Cash wallet on this device. Now, I could add an empty one too if I wanted to. So let's just call this one Bitcoin Cash, right? Old, right? What the heck, right? We could add this one too. Just call this one new, right? Because in effect, that's what they are. I have an old one, says existing, and I have a new one. I can add them both, right? We'll add 2 accounts. Well, I'm done, right? Now we can go over here. There's the Bitcoin Cash new. Should be empty, right? Receive. Let's go to this old one. And lo and behold, I did have some Bitcoin Cash before. It's empty now, but some came in at one point and then some went out. All right? So, but it's possible that there may have been a balance in there. So if you're looking to re-add your accounts, it's very simple. Just connect the device, hit add account, and choose the cryptocurrency that you wanted to look for. And if you don't have it on the device, install it. You'll notice that when we started this exercise, there was no Bitcoin Cash app on my device at all, right? I had deleted it. But when I re-added it back, the old wallet was still there, right? So the ledger will never forget your wallets, even if you've deleted the app, right? Because it's deterministic. It will only always regenerate the wallets that were on there before. So you're never going to lose your wallets. As long as you hang on to this device and your 24-word recovery phrase, you can destroy your computer with a sledgehammer and then just buy a new computer and rescan your device to get your old accounts back, right? You're never going to lose your cryptocurrency because Ledger Live crashes, or you have to reinstall Ledger Live from scratch, or do a clean install, or install on a different device. Your device will always hold your wallets safe and secure. That's the beauty of this device. All right. Great Caper is here. He's been here. And then Scott Lee giving a shout out to BCH and Digibyte. Cool. Time for breakfast. Aloha, Scott. Have a good breakfast. Good to have you here. Coinami used to have a compatibility address for Bitcoin Cash, but they don't anymore. So I have no idea how to get my Bitcoin Cash off the Ledger Nano S at this time. So thanks for your help. Hopefully you'll figure out, which address converter will work best for you to get your Bitcoin Cash off your device, if that's what you want to do, right? If you're trying to sell your Bitcoin Cash or whatever, or you're trying to withdraw it from your exchange, there may be an issue with that too. I've worked with people and we've had this issue before, and it's not a deal breaker, right? It can be resolved, right? Address formats change, right? So Bitcoin address formats change, right? There's SegWit, native SegWit, there's legacy. So if you are trying to deal with old legacy wallets and you're trying to withdraw Bitcoin from an exchange and you're having issues, there's converters that'll do it, help you, right? All right. Great Caper. I tried updating to Ledger 2.0 and 2.01. Both failed miserably. The Ledger does not communicate with Ledger Live after the update. The Ledger device hangs at bootloader when doing a repair. I had to uninstall 2.0 and 2.01 and reinstall an earlier version. It has limited functionality, pre-native SegWit, but it works. Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that Ledger Live 2.0 isn't working for you. I think, though, that I've got... let me find this for you.
The form.
I'm going to go down here to my... Where are the... I'm trying to get to my comments. They're not loading for some reason. Oh, I think maybe I need to pass the ad, right?
Formula, the Wall Street.
Maybe I need to get past the ad. All right, we'll skip the ad. And let's see if the comments show up. Well, I don't know what's going on with the comments. Because someone in the comments gave a link to an earlier version of Ledger Live that might be more recent than the one you got. I don't know. I'm not sure where you managed to find your earlier version of Ledger Live. You might be able to Google it. Okay. They have a let's do this. Ledger Live GitHub. I believe they have older. Yeah. Let's see what we got here. Having some trouble here. Let's see. Releases 176. Okay. There we go. There's releases. Come on. Oh, next. Okay. There we go. Version 1.2. I believe that's the one that people were linking to. I think that's the version right before 2.0 that they're directing you to reinstall if you're having issues, right? So if you're having issues with 2.0, and I'm about to go, but I'll quickly give you guys this. If you check in your Windows apps, you can uninstall the version that you're on, right? Right, so you can do your uninstall in Windows. And after you do that uninstall in Windows, what's going to disappear is your Ledger Live folder in your program files, right? In program files, there's Ledger Live. That's where the application lives, right? That will get deleted when you do the uninstall. Pardon me. But there's another folder that you really need to get rid of if you're having glitch issues, right? That would be in your C drive in the users folder. And in the users folder, you've got a name, a folder with your name on it. And then there's this other folder called app data. And inside app data is a roaming folder. And inside the roaming folder is the Ledger Live folder. Now this folder has all kinds of preferences and stuff in it that might screw you up if you try to do a step back, reinstall a previous version. So you want to get rid of that folder too, right? Now the app data folder is, as you can see here, it's kind of dim. It's a hidden folder. So if you can't see it, you'll have to go to View, Options, and then go over to this View tab and choose Show Hidden Files, Folders, and Drives. And then you'll be able to see that app data folder. So yeah, that would be my suggestion. If you're going to do a clean install, right? If all else fails and you can't get Ledger Live to work and you need to reinstall from scratch, go in and delete this Ledger Live folder. Now remember, it's not going to delete any of your wallets that are stored on the device, but you will need to reinstall your accounts in Ledger Live, right? These accounts here that I've set up are just pointing to private keys that are stored on the device, right? But you will need to do those again manually. And that might be pretty difficult for some of you. So try to avoid doing this if you're not very savvy, right? It's better off maybe waiting for bug fixes or server issues to resolve themselves before you just jump right in and start, uninstalling and reinstalling. You can just get yourself all mucked up by doing that. So, but if you can't see your crypto and you're having trouble, then do the uninstall. And like I said, if you go to that latest video, and I don't know why I can't see my comments there, but I can't. There we go. There's comments. There's a pinned comment right there at the top that gives you step-by-step instructions on how to do a clean install of Ledger Live. And also, if I can find that, where is this thing? Okay, here. Here's a step-by-stepper that I posted a while back on how to do a clean install of Ledger Live. Right? That'll take you to that video. Oops. I don't know what the heck that is. Oops, something went wrong. Oh, man. See? That was my... let's pop that out again. See, my Chrome just flaked out on me. All right, guys. So I'm going to sign off now. It's been an hour. Been very enjoyable. Sorry that we ended up getting so, sucked into Ledger Live, but it is a new release, and a lot of people are having issues. I'll try to stick with the basics, but and thanks for all your questions. Thanks for all your encouragement. I really appreciate it. I'll be here Friday for sure at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So just jump in then. Every Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live from Michigan. We talk about Bitcoin. We talk about the news, cryptocurrency related news, all that good stuff. And I move some crypto around. Didn't really move any crypto around today, this morning. So I'll try to, make sure I do that on Friday. So once again, thanks for joining today. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, I would appreciate it. When you subscribe, there's a little bell that you can click that will allow you to be alerted whenever I post new content. Once again, thanks for joining me, and hope to see you again soon.